Perfect. So I told you people already why we are here today. I am going to be taking you people through the common mistakes that I've found. So far, the number of mocks that I have evaluated, the number of tests that I've evaluated only for the September attempt is running into few hundreds. So I have evaluated so many answer scripts, and many of the mistakes that I see were common. Most of the students go wrong in the places where these mistakes are repeated by a lot of students. So I thought of compiling all of these mistakes in one place. Now here I will only be dealing with the problems. I only tell you that these are the mistakes that you have made, but I did not want to do that. I wanted to give you people the solutions alongside also. So what I've done is I have classified the mistakes that you people have made into different categories. Is it related to calculations? Is it related to discussion based questions? So, multiple categories of errors that I have divided your mistakes into. And then, side by side, as I'm going to be telling you the mistakes, I will also tell you the solutions as to how you can avoid those mistakes in your final exam. So, without any further ado, let us get started. Um, the very first classification of errors that I have created is the technical or the calculation based errors. What do you mean by technical errors? Technical errors are those where you people have gone wrong with the numerical workings, with the concepts that maybe you have applied incorrectly, because of which your numerical answer has come out to be incorrect. So, what are the problems that you people are facing here? Firstly, when it comes to the section C questions, you people have done the numerical workings incorrectly. Now, what is the reason that the numerical workings have gone incorrect? Maybe it could be because of silly mistakes of copy pasting wrong numbers from the question. So the solution is double check the numbers that you are taking from the question that is given to you. Another reason why your numerical answers are wrong is maybe everything you've copy pasted correctly, but you applied the concept incorrectly. So, whatever mistakes that you people have made, I'm sure you have practiced the progress tests, you've practiced the mock exams, and you've gotten the feedbacks also all on those tests. So, the very first thing that you should be doing is wherever you've gone wrong numerically, identify. Is it because of making a silly mistake? Is it because of a small technicality? Or is it because the concept is not clear to you? So first problem is this, that numericals are incorrect because of the concepts. So if it is the concept, then you go back, you revisit that specific concept again to find out, okay, that this was the gap, and you fill in those gaps before your exam. Then another problem that I saw is specifically if I talk about the pre-September mock that I have evaluated for you all, I saw that the ratios were missing for the financial metrics that were asked. So in the question that was there, you had to evaluate the performance of the company using multiple metrics, and the template as a whole was given to you. So in those templates, you were told what all numbers are you supposed to work out. Now, a few of the students, there were six calculations in total that were needed. So out of those six calculations, I saw some students have only done four of those numbers. Some students only did five of those numbers. When easily you people could have gotten those 6 marks for the calculations. Those calculations were not rocket science. They were very easy. So identify easy marks and ensure that you pick up those easy marks in your paper. Let me just finish what I am talking about right now. I will give you people a separate time frame to ask any specific queries that you want to. Okay. Proceeding further, I saw that in the variance analysis questions, a lot of students have put minus signs on favorable variances. This is a very common error that I have observed. Another thing you could do is if it is an adverse variance, but you forgot to put a minus sign there. So adverse variances should be putting up with a minus sign. Favorable variances, because they are good for the business, they should never be denoted with minus signs. So whenever you are done calculating the numerical portion, the formula, the way we write the formula, we can, put things here and there. What comes first from which you subtract, those things can get twisted because of maybe not able to, maybe because of the fact that you people are not able to memorize the formula properly in the exam, which is completely okay. It won't matter even if you, take the other thing first and the second thing and the first thing in the second place. That won't matter. But what sign should your variance get? That should solely matter upon how it is for the business. So if it is a material or labor, anything related to the cost variances, then those cost variances, if you have spent more than you should have, it is a bad thing for the business. So those variances will always be coming up with an minus sign. Similarly, if these are sales variances, so sales, the more the business sells, the better it is for the business. So if they are more than you should have sold, then those variances will always be classified as favorable. And whenever you put any favorable variance in your final exam, you will never put a minus sign with a favorable variance. Favorable means good. Good never comes with a minus sign. So ensure that once you have done your working, your numerical working, you create a memory aid for yourself that whenever it is a good news, it means it is a positive thing for the company. It is a favorable variance. So it cannot be accompanied with a minus sign. Another mistake which I saw, and one more thing before I proceed further, if let's suppose my answer has come out to be 10,000 favorable variance. Now, with a plus sign, you by default get to know that your answer is a favorable variance. But if you leave your answer here, if I'm talking about section C questions, if you leave your answer at 10,000 and you do not mention favorable, there's at least half a mark, or depending upon the marks available in the question, maybe even 1 mark that you lose in the question because of this silly mistake. You've done everything correctly, you've got your concepts all solid, numerically, you've gotten to the right answer. But if you do not write favorable or adverse, those are a few marks that you are never going to get, which were so easy. You almost had it in your hand and then they slipped away. So, no student wants that to happen. Ensure that you're putting in the favorable and adverse in words besides whatever your numerical answer is. And how you will write the favorable and adverse will always be based on logic, never based on the sign that you have gotten basis the formula that you have input. Formula can go haywire. So ensure that conceptually you put favorable or adverse depending upon the case specific scenario. If you're calculating any of the cost variances, labor variances, material variances, if you've spent more, they are bad. If you've spent lesser, they are good variances. Opposite will be the scenario for the sales variances. Then another common mistake is the formula application mistakes. Some of the formulae that you people are having in the PM exam, they are going to be given to you in the PM formula sheet, which you will be accessing in the entire duration of your exam. So that formula sheet will be the exam layout that you have, the entire software that you get on the day of the exam. On the top or at the bottom, you will find something known as the formula sheet. Once you click on it, you will get the entire access to all the formulas which ACCA has told you that they will be given to you on your exam day. So those formulas are going to be given. But that does not mean that if it is something given, you don't really need to care about it. You need to care because you need to know how to use those formulae. You should have done ample practice. If I talk about the regression formulae, if I talk about the MCMR formulae which are given in the formula sheet, those are the ones which you should be practicing, even though you see the formula from there, but you should be practicing ample questions so that you get to know the application of the formula in the exam and you do not struggle. Just because you thought that the formula was given, you did not practice, that is not going to work. In the exam, you will have to use that formula. So until and unless you learn how to use it, you will not be able to solve the questions in the exam. So whatever formula given in the formula sheet, ensure that you know how to apply them. And for the formulae which are not given to you in the exam, what are you going to do is you are going to practice a lot of calculations. Whatever days that you have left in your exam, ensure that you create a formula sheet. That solution is going to come further also. I've made a note of it also. So ensure that you create a formula sheet and you keep visiting those formulae which you are having particular difficulty in being able to recollect those formulae. Another common mistake is I saw basic arithmetic errors. These are plus, minus, multiply, divide mistakes, which you people probably, if you talk about section A and B, you are allowed to take the calculators in your exam. You also have a on-screen calculator in the exam. So there is absolutely no justification. It is totally foolish to lose marks on those mistakes which are plus or minus errors. You're not in class 5 or 6, right? So these are the errors which have to be completely eliminated. Be totally present in the scenario when you're giving the exam. Open all the doors that you have in your brain. Your brain should be totally functional, totally active. Do not think about the other things apart from the exam. You are in the exam at the moment. So be fully present over there. Basic errors should not be made. You have your calculators. Specifically, when I talk about section C, a lot of students come to me and ask me that I find it difficult to put formulae into Excel. Like I find it difficult pressing equal to and then numbers and then multiply that by something, divide that by something. So can I do the working on my calculator and then I will write that working in my Excel? So the answer to that is a strict no. Why? Because if you straight away enter a number in your Excel file, that means you are not showing the working to the examiner, that on your calculator what was the working. The examiner will never get to know that. So maybe if a part of your formula was incorrect and the total value is incorrect, just by seeing the total value, if you've not shown the working, the examiner is going to straight away cross that out. But if you show the formula in the formula bar, the examiner will have a look at the incorrect figure. But then when he will click on the cell in the formula bar, it will show what workings have you done to reach there. So even if half a part of that working is correct, you are going to get some marks, if not the full marks that were there. So getting something is more important than losing out on everything, because we know 50 is the bare minimum that we need to pass, although the goal is not just to get those 50 marks, but more than those 50, whatever is the best that we can perform. So to have the best shot at it, it is very much needed that whatever section C workings you are doing, all numbers should be put forth in the Excel. No number should be done by you on your calculator and then you input that in your spreadsheet. That is not what is going to happen. Now, talking about the solutions, I have told you already about the variances. One solution about the practice is that whatever days you're left with right now, have at least some part of the day which you practice the basic calculations, the learning rate calculations, the variances calculations. So something which you have to, which is like a basic application of the PM concepts. So do a practice of the numerical workings, whatever days are left, daily, a few questions. And whenever you are proceeding further, have the habit of systematic checking. What do we mean by systematic checking? Let's suppose I have completed in section C, I have completed one numerical requirement which was there for 6 marks. Now I am going to proceed further because I think that this requirement I have answered completely. Before you move ahead, just give like a quick 30 seconds, 40 seconds where you review the numbers once again. Maybe, whatever you had taken from the question, maybe you have transposed the figures. It was 68, but by mistake, I may have taken it at 86. So if these are the mistakes that I have made, then just having a quick review can help me avoid these mistakes. I can quickly correct this mistake. I will turn 68 to 86. So this is one thing which you should have a habit of. Whatever things that you practice from now onwards, ensure that you always double check your own self before you proceed further. What else? Double check your variances. I've already told you this. Is it good for the company? Is it bad for the company? Good for the company, it's favorable. Bad for the company, it is adverse. Then always, because I have seen the students miss out on answering all the requirements. So sometimes what will happen is the examiner is going to give you multiple requirements in just one question liner. So yesterday also, I think I was practicing with one of the batch of my students, where in part A, they were asking you three things in one single sentence. So they had asked us that we had to calculate firstly the shortage of a resource. We were talking about a limiting factor question. So firstly, the question wanted us to calculate the shortage of the resource. Then they wanted us to calculate the optimum production plan. And then they wanted us to calculate the profit that we will be getting after following that particular plan. So this requirement had shortage, comma, optimum, whatever they want, and then and total profit for this month. So always, whenever you are reading a requirement, when you see the word and in the requirement, be double alerted. You should be thinking that, okay, here I need to be serious because only one thing has not been asked. Multiple requirements are supposed to be answered by me. So there you should have a quick checklist that you should create, that these are the things which I need to find. So with respect to ratios, I had written this point. Few students, instead of calculating all six, they only calculated four or five ratios. So do create this checklist that I have to do these workings, and whenever you're done, you can just tick it off. So this will not take a very much amount of time, but this will help you ensure that whatever workings were required, you have actually done all of those workings, and you do not lose out on marks because of the silly mistake of not being able to figure out that multiple things were asked from you. Then talking about section A and B weaknesses, problems that a few students were facing. Firstly, if your score lies between the 50 to 60% range of section A and B, that means you do not have foundational knowledge, because section A and B of your paper gets tested from any portion of the syllabus. So here, probably there are gaps in the core concepts and principles of what we have learned as a part of the PM syllabus. So whatever mocks you have practiced, identify the weak areas. Maybe you have insufficient understanding, you know the concept a little bit, but not up to the level that is required for the PM exam. And sometimes maybe the terminology and definitions are not very clear to you. So usually this could be some particular terms like slack, like we have the bottleneck resources. So these are a few very basic terminologies which every student should know the exact meanings of. If you do not know the terminology, if you do not know the definitions, you probably don't know the PM syllabus. So if your conceptual knowledge of these things are problematic, what are a few solutions? Few solutions would be, whatever time frame that you have left, ensure that you do a foundation practice of section A and B. How can you do that? You have so many questions on the ACCA Study Hub. You have so many questions that you have in the BPP kit. So in case you people have been following my technique, which I tell you that whenever you practice the kit, any question which you're not able to get right in the first go, mark it so that you can come back to it later. So now is the perfect time to come back to those questions which you could not answer correctly in the first go. That means there was a little bit of a trick which was there, which led you to, go to an incorrect answer. So ensure that whatever those marked questions, if you have marked that, that's really good. But if you haven't, any of the resources which you feel you were able to answer lesser questions in, pick up that one resource, and from that resource, have a total go at section A and B questions as much as possible. With this, you will also be having a revision. Automatically, you will be revising the topics because section A and B topics are from different areas of the syllabus. So the questions that you answer, you will automatically be revising the concepts side by side. So this is solution number one. Another solution that I have for you is the flashcards. Now, these flashcards are also available on the ACCA Study Hub. Once you log in, you see chapters, quizzes, practice, and beneath that, you have flashcards also. So, flashcards are supposed to be used in case for the weak terminology and definitions that gives you the key terms and the key concepts which are there in the PM paper. So, maybe half an hour every day you can spend to review those flashcards. Those flashcards will give you at a glance the key concepts that are there, the key words that are there, definition wise. And if you face any difficulty over there, you can definitely reach out to me. So this is a few solutions so far. Another solution that I would like to give you people is that do a rotation of the topics. Do not just pick one topic and this is the topic I will be studying today. No, you are in that stage of your preparation now that you have finished each and every area of the syllabus. You have done revisions, you've attempted mocks. So now your practice should not be topic specific. Your topics should be everything that you do each and every day. So different topics you should be covering systematically. If I'm doing a practice today we are at Saturday, you have the paper on Wednesday. So whatever topics are there, ensure that you practice a mixed bank of questions. Do not just restrict your brain to only one topic. Because what happens is on the day of the examiner is not going to, give you a systematic list of topics that, okay, answer these questions from this topic, this from this. The exam is a comprehensive mix of all of the topics. So ensure that whatever practice also you're doing, you are rotating your topics. Do not just focus on only one topic. This is for those students for whom the weakness is not only in one to two particular topics. However, if you lie in the category of those students where your weakness is particularly one to two or three to four topics, then your focus will be more on those three to four topics, and general practice will be lesser part of the day that you do. Another thing which you can do is, especially if you're having trouble with the key concepts or the definitions, try to explain those concepts aloud. Ask question to your own self. Do I know the meaning of this thing? Can you explain it to your own self simply? If you can give yourself a simple explanation, that's the best way to find out that, okay, if I can explain it simply to my own self, that means I know this concept. But if you are unable to explain it simply to your own self, that simply means you have not understood the concept and you need to revisit back to it. You need to get help for it. Then another thing which you should be doing is past paper drilling. Whatever MCQs that you have from the past papers. Now, we know that on the ACCA practice platform, we do not have the access to a lot of section A and B questions because mostly the past papers, they've only published section C and section A and B are missing. So section A and B, where can you practice? The best resource is to have a look at the examiner reports. So examiner reports have published the questions which were most incorrectly answered or where the candidates have made the most amount of mistakes in. So you revisit the examiner reports. I would say at least go through the most recent four examiner reports where you practice A and B section questions from those reports. Within those reports, you also have the answers available. And if you face any difficulties in the questions that you see there, please feel free to reach out to me. But this is something which is very important, particularly if you want to improve your score in section A and B. Another thing that you can try is concept mapping. So a lot of students may be benefited by this. Some of the students may not be. So this is completely subjective. If this works for you, go ahead with it. Try to create flowcharts. Try to create diagrams that, okay, in this particular concept, these are a few types. Within each type, this is the thing which I should be remembering. So if you are a person who learns visually better, try creating visual mind maps for yourself. You can also take the help of these AI softwares like ChatGPT or any other AI. You just give them the topic and they help you create a visual diagram for it. So if you are a person who is able to recollect better, if you see things visually, this is a very good solution that you can go ahead with. And with AI, you will also be able to save time because if you manually try to create these flowcharts, it can take long. But with AI, you can get the flowcharts generated quickly. So these are a few solutions for the problems that I discussed with respect to the section A and B weaknesses. Now coming to the discussion and analysis issues, as you can already understand, this pertains to specifically section C of the paper. Now, section C of the paper is where you're supposed to discuss the things. You have requirements where you're supposed to analyze the things. So the problems which the majority of the students are facing over here is you all lack analytical depth. What do you mean by analytical depth? You are explaining the things on an overview perspective, but you are not able to go deep into the problems. You are able to identify the issues, but you're not able to identify that what will happen because of that issue. If something is going wrong with the business, that you already know that this is the thing which is going wrong. Now, when things go wrong, something happens as a consequence of it, which worsens the situation further. So maybe if I'm doing a ratio analysis of any particular company, I'm evaluating the financial performance of a company. So I have identified that a particular business is making delays in the deliveries. So let's suppose they have a delivery business where a lot proportion of the deliveries are turning out to be late deliveries. So now we know that this is an issue what implication will it cause? What is the reason why these deliveries are getting late? So that is what is needed to get those marks which are available in the paper. Sometimes you miss the business context and the strategic thinking, that what will happen on a organization level, how will it impact the business in the longer term? That is what is missing. Sometimes you do not consider from the perspective of each and every stakeholder. So this is particularly useful for not for profit entities, not for profit organizations, where usually we do the performance evaluation using the value for money model. So we know that for not for profit entities, it is already difficult to find out how their performance has been, because their motive is not for profit. They are operating for another objective which they want to achieve, which usually is a subjective thing, which usually is a qualitative thing. So already it is difficult to manage or measure their performance. Now, one thing which makes it even more difficult is that there are multiple stakeholders, and these stakeholders want different things from this entity. So if it is a university, maybe government funded university, so a few stakeholders are going to be the government, the teachers, the staff, the students, and maybe the companies who come there to offer placements to the students. So each and every stakeholder is going to have different expectations from the entity. Government will want educate as many students as possible in as lesser resources as possible. So the focus of government will be economy. Then, if I talk about the students, they are going to want the best of resources, the best of teachers, the best of infrastructure, which will require more spending. So that is contradicting to what the government wants. If I talk about the teachers, the staff, they are going to want probably good pay packages, which is going to increase the cost, again conflicting with the objective of the government. What about the placement companies which come there for the students? They are going to want to have, the students to be equipped with the latest skills, employability skills, like how ACCA has included AI in your papers, like how ACCA is including data analytics, the changes which are scheduled to start from 2027 in the qualification. ACCA is also preparing you for the future. So all these things, the placement companies are going to want that the college gets you ready for all of these things. Now, this will require research, this will require expenditure to be incurred. So that is going to make things difficult again for the government, because they want lesser funding to be given to us. So whenever you're evaluating from the value for money perspective, or for that matter, you're evaluating from any other model also, try to think about the all of the stakeholders. This is also applicable for profit making companies, where the stakeholders are going to be the shareholders, the board of directors, the auditors, the general public, so the government, the taxation authorities. So ensure that you are, whenever you're writing your analysis, this is particularly useful for those questions where usually for 20 marks, or if not entirely 20, a majority chunk of the 20 marks are available for your analysis. So if you want to have a detailed analysis and in-depth analysis, the solution is to consider each and every one's perspective. Think 360. Think from each and every angle that is possible. Sometimes when risks and opportunities have to be evaluated, maybe there are a few problems that the company is facing, something that the company can do nicely. So sometimes you are not thinking from all perspectives. That's the problem. Another problem that we see is that in complex scenarios, you are not able to think of all the possible things which can actually vary because of this. So the solutions to these problems, another problem before I move to the solution is you are not able to connect your calculations to the decisions of the business. So if let's suppose it is a make versus buy question, you have calculated the ranking that, okay, first we should produce this thing internally, second this thing, third this thing. Now, numerically, you're all able to work around the things. But when it comes to the actual application of telling that, okay, telling the business that because we are saving most here, this is what we will produce first internally. And that's why we are going in this particular sequence. So sometimes most of the students are able to work around with the calculations, but a lot of you face difficulties when it comes to linking it to the discussion portion which you're supposed to write. So solutions to overcome these problems that I just spoke to you about, you have to use the so what technique. After every point that you are asking, that you are writing in your answer, let's suppose you have written that the gross profit margin of this company has increased by 30%. Now, when you write this particular sentence, when you finish writing it, ask your own self, what will happen because of this? What is the reason that this has happened? What does it mean for the business in the longer term? If my gross profit margin is increasing, that means I'm able to control my direct expenses, which is going to give me more amount of money with which I can meet my other indirect expenses. That means perhaps if I have a good control over my indirect expenses, my net profit margins can also possibly increase, which will help me bring more value for my shareholders. Also, consider using the SWOT framework in your answers. Whenever, let's suppose, they have identified that they are going to change the system of the budgeting. So, when they ask you, evaluate should they change this system or not. So, think that if the current system which we are using, what are the benefits that it is giving us? What are the strengths of using this system? If we switch to another system of budgeting, what could be the potential problems? What could be the weaknesses? What could be the threats that we could face from outside of the business? So think from all perspectives. These are a few ways with which you can train your mind to think from all the different perspectives. You can also do a stakeholder analysis. I've told you already. How will a particular thing affect your customers? How will it affect your employees? How will it affect your shareholders? So recently there was a question that we were all discussing together, which was the quality tires company. So in that question, you were supposed to do an analysis about the flexibility perspective. So when you spoke about the flexibility perspective, I think the numerical answer was 29% increase was there in the flexibility. So that means it is a good thing for the business. It is a good thing for the customers. More and more people can come in at different time frames and get the services from Quality Tires Company. But what does it mean for the employees? Your analysis will only be complete when you talk about the perspective of each and every person. So you talk from the perspective of employees also. If the employees have to work for more duration of hours, that means more workload for them. That means more chances of burning out. That means more chances of employees thinking of leaving the organization, which could translate to a higher labor turnover rate. If the labor turnover rate is high, what could happen as a result of it? My operations could get affected. So these are a few things that that will be working in a chain effect in a way. So think of the business consequences always, that if this thing is going to continue, what will happen in the 6 months in the future? What will happen after 1 year if the things continue happening this way itself? So this is a few techniques. These are a few solutions which can help you overcome these mistakes of not going into as much depth as possible. In the PM exam, you're given with multiple things in the scenario itself by the examiner, where they tell you that this is the thing, this has happened in the company. Somewhere or the other, when you're using that, when you're writing your own answer for the analysis, that thing could be used to give a reason for your analysis. Let's suppose the gross profit margin has increased by 30%. So maybe somewhere in the question, they would have told you that this is gross profit margin. We find out after subtracting all of the direct expenses. So maybe somewhere in the question, the examiner will tell you that recently the company has changed the supplier, where we have been able to procure the same quality of material at a very cheaper price. So this is one of the reasons why your gross profit margin could have increased, because your direct material cost has reduced. So you sell at the same price, but your costs have gone down, direct costs have gone down, because of which your gross profit is now looking at a higher number. So think of, how one thing could have led to the other thing. Everything that happens in the universe, not just the PM paper, it's always a chain reaction. One thing has happened because of which the other thing happened. This other thing will cause another thing to happen. So think of the chain effects. That is how you will be able to enhance the analysis. That is how you will be able to enhance the reasons that you give, that if this thing has happened this way, why has it happened this way? Now, once you explain the why, also go on to think that if this continues, what will this mean for the business? So the consequence thinking, this is what they have told you over here. If it continues, what will happen in the near future, in the near 6 months, in the near 1 year? Another thing which another set of requirements which get asked in the PM paper is if the company is thinking to change their budgeting system. So when you think of changing your budgeting system, implementation is not very easy. So how are these things going to be implemented? What are the challenges which might arise as a result of implementing? So whenever a new change is happening in the organization, the staff might resist. Staff might need training to operate this new thing which you are thinking to launch. So there's a plethora of possible points which are going to be written by you people when it comes to the challenges which could be faced when we are thinking of switching to a new system. You could talk about the information systems. Let's suppose if we were using the traditional system, now we are thinking to switch to the ABC method of budgeting. So ABC, we all know we need a whole detailed information to make ABC budgets. So does the company have information systems which will be able to collect this much of detailed information or not? These are a few things which we can discuss when they will be implementing these things. These are the problems that the company can possibly be facing. Now, these were all of the problems along with the solutions which pertain to the discussion or the analysis. Proceeding further to the content coverage problems, a lot of you do not, identify all relevant issues which are there. What do I mean by this point? When you are talking about a case scenario in the PM exam, when you're asked about, let's suppose, the limitations of using the method which they are using right now, a lot of you, what you do is you give me generic points. Now, when the requirement itself has given you the name of the question in the requirement, that means they are not asking you anything generic. They are asking you specifically in context of the scenario that you're talking about. So, if you end up writing generic points which are not really applicable to the company, you do end up scoring some marks. But how do you score maximum marks? Maximum marks are only possible when you link things to the scenario. Whatever scenario has given to you, try to extract each and every information which can be put forth in your answer for these limitations. So read the scenario. When you read the scenario, one solution which comes to my mind right now as I tell you this is highlight the important points. Whenever you're reading the question, the section C question can be a lengthy question. There can be multiple things which we in the exam stress may have a tendency to forget about. So, whatever thing that you are reading the question at the time of first reading only, make it a habit that you highlight any of the points which you think that you might be able to use in your answer somewhere or which you might need to come back to. So, if I remember that I had read that somewhere, but I can't exactly in this long case study, I'm not exactly able to find out where it was. So if I would have highlighted it at the time of reading, I will not have to spend a lot of time locating where it was in the content because you do not have control F in your exam. So these are a few solutions which can be possible to help you retain all of those points so that eventually you can use them in your answers. Another problem, we have already spoken about missing ratios. You do not answer all of the requirements properly. Uh, Failure to address all parts in the multi-part questions. So sometimes if it's a part C, which has part 1, part 2, part 3, a lot of you in exam haste, you may be answering 1 and 2, but you forgot that there was a third requirement also to answer. So there are a few easy marks which you have possibly lost out on. Maybe you already knew the answer to the question, but because you did not read the question properly, that there were these many requirements, you have lost out on those easy marks. And it really pains a lot, especially when you knew the answer, but you were not able to write it in the exam. Because sometimes it can be a very close call. Maybe you, God forbid, I do not, even risk for everyone or any one of you to happen that way, that you lose out on getting a pass mark by maybe 1 mark or 2 mark. So that is when we realize how important it is to capture each and every mark which is possible for us to do. So ensure that you are keeping a clear count of what all requirements are there. And before you proceed forward, before you switch your screen to the next question, always ensure that whatever was asked, you have answered each and every part of it. We do not have negative marking in the ACC exams. We even have an own figure rule, which makes it even better, that even if the entire thing is not correct, whatever thing is correct, I end up getting marks for it. This is not your Indian CA qualification where, the marking is very strict. You have an own figure rule, which makes things even easier for you. So even if you feel that I do not know the exact answer, write whatever you think could be the answer, because there's nothing to lose. And if maybe, God was on your side, things went right, you will get those marks. So we have nothing to lose. We have only a potential, profit or a gain to be made over here. So why not write that answer? So do not leave out on any requirement in your final paper. Entire 100 marks of paper is very important to be attempted. That is completely non-negotiable. Obtaining a 50 out of 100 would be more easy if, let's suppose, you had only attempted 80 marks of paper. That gives you lesser chances of being able to secure 50 out of the 80 marks that you attempted. So ensure that you attempt entire 100 marks of paper. And one more problem that I face in the analysis questions is you people do not expand the correct points sufficiently. So whenever you are given with the marks allotted to a particular requirement, let's suppose it is a 6 marker requirement where they have asked you to give 3 points specifically. So now that means 6 marks are total available and I have to write 3 points. That means per point I have 2 marks. Now, when you are writing a point worth 2 marks, it should look like you're writing a point worth 2 marks. How will it look like that? Your point should have, ideally, if there are 3 pointers to be asked, you will be using 3 clear subheadings. And within each subheading, you will explain each and every point at least using 3 to 4 sentences. I'm not saying 3 to 4 lines. These are 3 to 4 lines. But I am saying these are going to be well explained 3 to 4 sentences. They are going to have 3 to 4 sentences where you exactly explain your point in enough detail so that it is worthy of obtaining those 2 marks of credit. So let's discuss other solutions also. First solution that I give you is whenever you think like you are done, you have thought of all of the possible points, use the three more rule. Tell your brain that once you are done thinking, tell your brain, let's try to find 3 more points. Now, once you target to find 3 more, maybe then you find at least 1 or 2 more points. Otherwise, you were just leaving the answer there. So, if you are able to think of maybe 1 or 2 more points because of the 3 more rule, there are a few extra marks which you have obtained over there, which you otherwise would have left the question there and there. So use this rule whenever you think that I am done with writing all of the analysis that was possible. Another thing which we have already discussed is try to use a multi-angle approach. Think of the things from all perspectives, from a financial perspective, from an operational perspective, from what will it mean in the long term for the business, the strategy of the business. Think about the risk also. Yesterday itself, we were doing a question called as CSC company, where we were discussing how when there was a contract that this CSC company had entered into, they were thinking of breaching that contract. So we were asked that whether this company should go ahead and breach this contract or not. So that is when you take this multi-angle approach. You think from the perspective of your finances. So the company was able to make more money because of breaching the contract. So the financial perspective told you go ahead and breach the contract, but do not just stay till there. Think from the other perspectives. What will it mean for the operations of the business? Operations means how are the other customers going to think about it? What will it look from the strategic point of view? What are the future potential customers going to think? Are we going to lose this one particular customer if we breach this contract? What is the risk perspective? Will we be involved in any of the legal cases? Will it make it difficult for us to sustain in the future? So, whenever a requirement is asking you, try to think 360, try to think from each and every possible perspective. That will help you to write an answer which is balanced, that will help you to write an answer which is more analytical, helping you, to be able to secure more marks that are available. Another thing is requirement analysis. This is something which is very important. Whenever you are going to start any requirement, before you start that, highlight or underline the main part of the requirement. So if they have given me a requirement, let's suppose the requirement says calculate optimum production plan for the next month. So this is the requirement that is going to be possibly crossing one line. So in that one line, I will highlight exactly what I'm supposed to calculate. Optimum production plan is going to be my highlight so that I get to know exactly what I have to do. Second thing is your template. What point template can you use for an evaluation? So if the question wants you to evaluate something, for every point that you try to write over there, firstly, identify what is the cause. Why will this thing happen this way? Then think of the effect, that if this thing will happen this way, this is how it will affect the company. This is what it will lead to for the company. And then the third aspect of this point will be to give the recommendation that, okay, this thing has happened. This can potentially lead to this. So, what should be the course of action now? Should we avoid this thing by maybe getting some insurance? Whatever is the point, you try to give a recommendation or solution to the company that this is the problem, this is what it will cause an issue into, and this is how we can possibly avoid it or reduce it. So try to think from these three perspectives whenever you're answering an evaluate requirement. Now, your time allocation should be a little bit there in the planning part. I have a detailed section on the time planning also, but whatever time you allocate to each and every requirement, ensure that you spend 2 to 3 minutes planning your answer before you actually start writing your answer. Specifically, if it is a section C requirement where you are supposed to write a discussion, discussion should only be written once you have planned it properly. What do you mean by planning it properly? If it is a 6 marker requirement where I'm supposed to write 3 points, I will firstly plan that, okay, with these 3 points, these are going to be the three subheadings that I write. And within these three subheaders, I want to highlight these keywords. So I have planned a rough answer in my brain. Now, you people also would agree with me when I say that if you plan things, you're able to do the things better. So if you have a plan, a rough plan just in your mind, you do not even need to sketch it on paper. Just in your mind, have a rough plan that this is the structure which I'm going to be following to write my answer. So you will be able to do it better. Another thing is the cross-reference checking. I have already told you this, that you have to ensure that all the requirements are addressed. Before you proceed ahead to the next requirement, do give a cross-checking that, okay, I have solved all of the requirements which the question was asking me. Then coming towards another set of issues which pertains to the time management problems. So the problems are you people are running significantly over time. Not every one of you, but some of you. I have mentioned it in the feedback that you people have received. If you have mentioned your time taken and if you have exceeded 3 hours, that means there is something which you have to do about your time management. Most of the students have ran out of time by more than 15 minutes. Some student had taken 4 hours, some student had taken 3 hours and 30 minutes. This is a very alarming thing. You have gotten to know this before the day of your final exam, so work on it. What are the solutions which you can possibly use? I will discuss this. First, what are the other problems? Poor allocation of time between the sections. Now, when I tell you poor allocation, allocation means distribution of the time. So you have three sections in your paper, section A, section B, and section C. If you people are not following the 1.8 minute rule, you are doing a poor allocation of your time. What does that mean? If I am spending too much time on section A and B, I do not have the allocated the time which the section C deserves, which will make me go in trouble because if I do not get a shot at the entire 100 marks of paper, that makes my chances of passing even slimmer. So to ensure that we have the best of the chances at passing, we have to ensure we attempt 100 marks of paper, and that is only possible if you manage your time nicely. You are sometimes rushing through the sections leading to careless errors. Specifically, if you're thinking that section C is weak for me, so let me just quickly go through section A and B because they are so-called easy sections. I will just quickly solve these parts and then I will spend more time in section C. That's a wrong approach. The approach is 1.8 minute per mark rule. Section A, you have 30 marks. 30 multiplied by 1.8 gives you 54 minutes. As soon as the first 54 minutes in my exam are over, I have to ensure that I start off with section B. There is no more time, not even a single second, that I will spend more on section A, because each and every section needs to get the time that it deserves. Section B also, same. One case study will have 18 minutes for you. So 54 minutes for a total of three case studies. And then section C, you have 40 marks. That would mean 36 minutes per 20-mark question. So in total, you should have 72 minutes for answering section C requirements in the paper. Ensure whatever practice that you are doing, that is done with a timer. No exceptions to be made on this. If you have already attempted 1 to 2 mocks, ensure that you practice 1 to 2 mocks more, where you are setting a timer for yourself. It is very important to understand whether or not you're able to manage the time in your paper properly or not. Because trust me, even if you know 100 marks of paper, but you're not able to manage your time nicely, I have seen students go towards the other side where you do not want to go. Another thing is the move on discipline. Move on, that means you are supposed to proceed further. You're not supposed to stay stuck. There are a few questions that the examiner deliberately puts in the paper for you to mess up the time. Why do they do that? They want you to spend longer in answering one question so that you do not get time to answer all of the questions that are there in the paper. So if you feel stuck in any question and the allowed time is already over, you will mark the question in the exam. There's an option to flag a question for review. So you can use that functionality. You will mark the question and you will return to it if time permits. Once the actual time available is over, you absolutely have to go ahead to the next question. A lot of the students, I know this is very easier said than done. Sometimes what happens is in the exam, I will feel allowed time has just gotten over, but I need literally like 1 more minute and I can arrive at the final answer. I'm very close to arriving at the final answer. But what happens is 1 minute we think, and then we are probably ending up spending 10 minutes over that question because we're thinking there's only one thing which I'm probably missing out on, because of it, which I'm not able to get the answer. So I will keep on trying to think what is that one missing leg of the answer which I get, and I will be able to get these marks. So this is a time trap. You people are not supposed to fall for these traps laid by the examiner. If the allowed time is over, you will proceed, you will mark it for later. And if you are left with time, then only you will come back to it. And I have already told you this, take multiple timed mocks. Ensure that you're getting the practice under a time pressured system so that on the day of the exam, you do not feel a sudden pressure that, okay, this timer is running. While you are practicing, also get used to this time pressure. Efficiency techniques, learn to spot high value points quickly. So in the yesterday's practice session also, some of you were there, where I was telling you how identify those areas which you can answer quickly. If let's suppose you're in a scenario in exam where you're running out of time and you're thinking you might not be able to complete the entire paper. So ideally this will hopefully this doesn't happen, but if this happens, most probably this will happen in the section C, when you are thinking that time is running out and I may not be able to complete the entire question. So in that scenario, spot the high value points. What is something which you can do in lesser time which can give you the maximum amount of marks possible? So if it's a 20 marker of requirement, the numerical, I do not really think I can calculate that in the time left. Maybe if there's a direct discussion portion, which is some direct knowledge, which I've learned from the theory document which was provided to me, in that case, I will quickly answer that question. Then whatever time is left, I will try to spend that over the numerical. Whatever it is I'm able to do, that's okay. Otherwise, whatever things that I knew first, I have written the answers to those things. So this is one efficiency technique that you can use if you are running out on time. Highlight, understand, spot whatever is the thing which you can do quicker. Get done with that first so that you're able to secure at least some of the marks and not everything is going to the dump. Another thing, we have already spoken about this, spend maybe 2 to 5 minutes planning your answer, which is going to be included in the 36 minutes that you get to attempt one part of the one question of section C. Coming towards another set of weaknesses that I identified, that is the presentation weaknesses. Now, I have possibly gone absolutely crazy trying to tell my students to use subheadings, and still, in some of the answer scripts, I have not seen subheadings being used. I cannot tell you, it almost pains me physically that I have told this thing so many times I've repeated the same thing that please use subheaders. Still, I see students are answering without subheaders. If the subheaders are there, they are very poorly written subheaders. They do not convey what is actually spoken about in the point beneath. So ensure your subheader, every point should have a clear subheading. Paragraphs that you are writing, the students who are not using subheaders, they are using too long paragraphs to answer their discussion based questions. Your paragraph should be 3 to 4 sentences at max. Your answers should be there in small paragraphs. As soon as 3 to 4 well drafted sentences have been written, you have to start a new paragraph. You cannot go on rambling long paragraphs. This is not an essay writing competition. It is a professional exam that you people are appearing for. So ensure that your content is readable. Somebody else would like to read this. The answers which most of the students are writing for the discussion based answers, after writing the answers, you yourself may not feel like reading it. So your answers should be presented in a manner that you should also think that if you come back to it 10 minutes later, you should want to read it. The examiner should want to read it. It should be so easy to follow through. That will only be possible if there are properly laid down subheadings and the paragraphs are easy to read. They are small paragraphs. Nobody who is on the checking side of the paper, nobody likes to read long paragraphs. Nobody likes to read stories. We are not here for that. Another problem which I see is that you people are having a poor structure which makes your answers hard to follow. Haywire. In the same paragraph, you're talking about three multiple points. Next paragraph, you come back to the first point. Next paragraph, you've spoken about the third point in detail. And then the last paragraph, you talk about the second point. Your answer should be properly structured. If you're starting off with one point, finish whatever you want to say about that point first, and then start the next point, explain that, and then to the next point, and so on. So your answers should be properly structured. Each and every point should be in a proper sequence so that if somebody else is on the reading side, they're able to follow through what you exactly want to talk about. Another thing is that inadequate professional presentation for your marks. So ideally, this is not a professional level paper of the ACCA exams, but you're still in the skill levels where you are eventually ACCA is a professional qualification. So your answers should look like a professional has drafted those answers. They should not be running into long paragraphs. They should be structured. They should be easy to read, easy to follow. They should look nice. And for these things, the solutions I'm telling you, you should ensure that every point has a clear subheader which conveys what you are talking about in the points that follow after the subheading. You will be following the two to three sentence rule. After 2 to 3 or 4 sentences are written, you will start a new paragraph. You will not go rambling on into lengthy paragraphs. Then, professional formatting. How can you make your answers look like a good professional person has written those answers? They should have clear headings. You should not be using numbered list. 1, 2, 3. No professional talks like this. So these lists are a big no. Bullets also are not to be used. So your answers should be subheading in bold, leave a line, answer your question in the 2 to 3 sentences, small paragraphs, leave a line, next subheader, explain that, leave a line. This is the clear professional format that you should be following, and there should be ample white space for readability. Do not write a very clumsy answer where everything is congested. You are not charged for using more space in the exam. You do not have to pay extra for that. So ensure that you are leaving proper spaces so that it looks like a professional has created this particular answer. Even if you have a look at what the document that I am presenting to tell you people about these points, have a look at this document. I have highlighted the subheadings. I have used a very big paragraph to let you people know where you are going wrong. Here, the agenda of the discussion is to let you people know where you are going wrong. So I've not written any small paragraphs for explanation. I am giving the explanation, but there are no long paragraphs. There are no numbers that I've done, one, two, three, four. No bullet points to be used in your final answer also. Structure template is you will follow consistent format for each answer type. If it is a numerical question in section C, your workings should be easy to follow. Do not just be, firstly, you're doing the main working, then the working note is also fitted into the main working. No, working note should be presented separately where you are labeling it clearly that this is my working note and you tell what working are you doing in that working note. So the numerical answers should be structured in a manner, they should have enough labeling to for the examiner to be able to understand that okay, the student has tried to calculate this thing over here. Same thing is for your discussion based requirements. I have given you what format you people should be following. It should be easy to follow for the examiner and make it as readable, make it as presentable as possible. And in your mock exams that you practice, although we have already had the evaluations for the pre-September mock exam, and some of the students have even sent other exams apart from that. So any exams that you now practice on your own, focus specifically on presentation. Questions you may be able to answer, but that is not where this ends. Your presentation also has to look good. It should be understandable by the examiner, then only they will be able to allot you marks. Even if you're writing the correct answers, but the examiner is not able to understand, then there's no point because you'll not be getting the marks for that. So your presentation should be as neat, as professional as possible. Now, till here, I've spoken about the different classifications that I had done for your errors and the solutions that you can use. Now, I'm going to be talking a little bit about what your study plan should look like. We are presently sitting at the 30th of August, and your exam is on the 3rd of September. So, what you should be doing in the remaining time that you have, essentially, if I include today, it is 4 days. So, the final 3 days, that is Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. What all are you going to do? Focus only on the weak identified areas. Practice time management religiously. Whatever papers, whatever questions that you practice, even if you're practicing a section B question, one case study you're doing, 18 minutes, set a timer, follow that timer, and ensure that you're able to complete it within that time frame. Whatever common errors that you have made in the formula, if you went wrong with the variance signs, review those things and ensure that you're keeping a note of it in a manner that you do not end up making these mistakes again. One more very important thing that I would like to tell you people is now we have barely 4 days left for the exam. So there are no new topics which you will try to study at the moment. If you have left out any topic till now, you are not going to take it up until the exam. That means whatever knowledge that you have existing at the moment, you will only focus on consolidating that knowledge. If there were any particular weak areas, you will go back to the concepts of those weak areas. If all in all, you just want to do an overall revision of the syllabus, you will do overall revision of the syllabus. But there are no new topics which you will try to learn at this stage in the time. And then finally, when you come to the Tuesday, which is the day before the exam, on Tuesday, you are not going to stress yourself too much. You will only do a light revision, preferably in the first half of the day. I'm assuming that even if you're a working student, maybe you would have managed to get a leave one day before the exam. On Tuesday, you're not going to think too much about the exam, just some light revision in the first half of the day. You will review your formula sheet, whatever materials that you have prepared, you will go through those notes. Theory notes are very important. Theory notes ensure you go through on the day of the exam also before you reach the center. And Early sleeping is very important. You will not study anything after 6 p.m. You all have to promise me you will not touch your books, you will not touch your notes after 6 p.m. You sleep early. We are all Gen Z, we're talking about. So I give you a target of 9 p.m. Set 9 p.m. as your target. Think that you will have to sleep at this point in time, especially if you have the early slot of the exam booked on Wednesday. Ensure that you sleep on time. Pack anything which you are going to need for the center on the next day. You usually have to carry your exam docket, your calculator, your just one blue pen, black pen, whatever you like, pencil, and one government issued identity card where your name and everything, your photo is there, and your name is written in English. So those are the things which you're going to need for the day of your exam. Ensure you pack them the night before itself so that on the day of exam you're completely stress free. Leave for your exam center on time. You should not be getting into the stress of reaching late. So there's no harm in reaching 15, 20 minutes early rather than getting late. Late will give you stress, and stress is bad for you on the day of the exam. Go with a fresh, clear mind and give it your best possible shot. So these were a few common mistakes along with the solutions, and I've given you what all you should be doing now that the last 4 days are there in our hand. That is all from my side, and now I'm opening the floor for any questions that you people might have. One by one, you can raise your hands or you can drop your queries in the chat box. The very first query, yes, Shreyas, go ahead.
Uh, Ma'am, like in the starting, you told that favorable answers should be in positive.
Mhm,
So it depends on what we take as the first two columns, right? Like for material usage, if I take actual and standard first and I get the answer in negative, that
mhm.
means that I have taken less, I have used less and it's favorable. So should I rearrange the columns later then to get a positive?
No need to rearrange the column, rearrange in the formula. The
Like I will
formula
get,
that you put in the third column, rearrange that formula so that you get a plus sign over there.
okay.
Yeah. Yes, Raj?
Ma'am, for this similar type of a question, like for example, I have a adverse variance,
Okay.
and my formula I used is standard cost minus the actual cost, and I get I get a negative answer.
Mhm.
So shall I write like it is like minus 1,000 and adverse in the next column, or just 1,000 and adverse?
Minus 1000 and adverse. Even if you just write 1000 and then you write adverse at the side of it, that is also okay. Both
Okay.
works.
Okay. And one more thing, like
Yeah.
recently I was solving a section B question from the study hub.
Mhm.
So like I couldn't recognize whether if it was for limiting factor or for throughput accounting. There was no specification. Like there was a limiting factor given, like a bottleneck activity was given.
Mhm.
Like a machine A can only be used for this many hours, but I
Okay.
couldn't recognize whether it was throughput or limiting.
Okay, so you can share that question with me, Raj. Usually, the methodology that we follow is more or less the same. The method is not very different. It's just how the contribution we calculate that is different.
Yeah,
In limiting factor, we subtract all of the variable costs, but in throughput, we only take the material costs. So
yeah.
only that working is getting changed. You can share the question with me. I'll have a look and let you know how to go about that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah. Anything else, guys? I hope this session was useful. Did you learn anything?
Good morning, ma'am. Can I also say something?
Yes, go ahead, Alencia.
Lindsay, I just wanted to say thank you very much because this is like an eye opener. I have tried, I stopped counting how many attempts I did with PM. And today's session, this 1 hour session was wonderful because it takes me to another level of understanding of how I should present. Most of the issues or my weaknesses, I have recognized them and I've learned. And thank you very much for that, ma'am, for taking your time to do that with us.
You're most welcome, Alencia. I'm really glad that it helped you identify where you have gone wrong. Also, I hope you would have gone through the detailed feedback that I've given to you. And whatever are your specific mistakes, ensure that you spend the remaining days working on those. Nothing would make me more happy than to see all of my students succeed. That is what I do this all for. Anyone else? Any other thing?
Ma'am,
Yes.
is there a chance that we get ABC or something in the section C?
ABC or something. So you saw the ABC budget getting asked in section C. The PM paper has started to become really, really unpredictable. Earlier, probably back in the day when I was appearing for my exams, or even before that, that was the time when the questions were a little bit more predictable. For some exams, even now, the questions are more predictable. For example, in FM, we know that in section C, it will be investment appraisal, working capital, or cost of capital, any two out of
Yeah.
these three areas. But when it comes to PM, they have literally started around with playing around with the topics. We do not really know what is going to be asked in what section, so we should be prepared for each and everything. Every concept that you know, you should be able to answer. You should be prepared, I would say, to answer it in any part of the paper. Do not be surprised on seeing any requirement in any part of the paper because PM is an open ground now. Anything can happen. All right. Uh, I hope I have addressed most of your queries. If you still have any difficulties, you can always message me after the session. And again, I wish you all the very best for your final exam. This is the last time that we are going to be meeting live. So if you have any other difficulties, you are always welcome to reach me out on WhatsApp, and I will be happy to help you. So I'm going to conclude this meeting over here. Again, I wish you all the very best. Go with a fresh and clear mind and do the best. Your entire 3 months of hard work will be judged by what you do on your exam day. So ensure that the remaining 4 days that you have, you all work forward to it and make it count. All the best. Bye bye.
Thank you, man.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, ma'am. Bye.